Welcome to Conversations. I'm Suresh Kochar. After Elon Musk and his team got cracking, documents show how US aid funded ridiculous projects. But before we get on to that, I request you to like this video, share it, and of course, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe for this channel. Well, let's look at what USAID does. USAID is by far the largest humanitarian and development arm of the US government, with a workforce of approximately 10,000 people around the world and with an annual budget of tens of billions of dollars. The US Congress approves USAID's funding each year. Now, it's all changing. This humanitarian agency, which works with the Congress and the White House, actually sets out priority. Actually, it's investment priority they set out, with the State Department providing it with the foreign policy guidance. So basically, they fund projects so that the US government looks good, the US government gets a positive image, and of course, a lot of PR comes with that. But then, United States, we know, is the world's largest provider of the official development assistance, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD as it is known. Most of its support is actually routed through a channel through USAID. US President Donald Trump's administration has cracked down hard, and now it has revealed details of how the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, funded ridiculous projects over the years. In fact, this comes just a month after Mr. Trump issued an executive order to re-evaluate and realign US foreign aid with the new administration's policy and put a 90-day pause on foreign aid through USAID. The documents reveal that further that USAID funded millions of dollars to countries for LGBT groups and their activism, a topic that Mr. Trump is trying to discard from the United States. USAID has been completely unaccountable for decades, run by bureaucrats with their own agenda, who believe that they answer to nobody. Here are a few ridiculous projects which USAID spent the US taxpayers' money. Don't laugh at them. You might feel like laughing at them, but then there will be some people who also cry about this. For example, 7.9 million was spent, 7.9 million US dollars to be precise, was spent to teach Sri Lankan journalists how to avoid binary gendered language, how to write proper pronouns so that you don't actually touch here nor there. It should be avoiding the binary gendered one. I mean, how can you spend 7.9 million? Obviously, this has gone into somebody's pockets. 20 million for a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. I mean, come on, $20 million for a Sesame Street show in Iraq. Who the hell is going to watch it? Forget and spending 20 million, you can do it even with $1 million. And why Iraq of all the places? What are they going to dance? See the show and laugh at it? Ridiculous. Next, we have something more. 4.5 million was spent to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. Well, what disinformation? Say it upright, that we wanted to create an anti-Trump and pro-Biden narrative. 1.5 million for an art inclusion of people with disabilities. One can still sympathize with this, but still there's no clarity on who or where this money was spent and what is the objective behind doing this. Okay, 2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. Come on. I mean, USAID better walk their talk. I mean, this is ridiculous. What has LGBT activism got to do with the US government, and what has it got to do with Guatemala? What kind of impression are you trying to create with the US government by funding 2 million for sex changes in Guatemala? I mean, come on, get real, guys. Wake up, smell the coffee. 6 million was spent to transform digital access spaces and to reflect the feminist democratic principles. God only knows what that actually means. We need to go back and read it all over again. Transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles. I mean, I'm sure the guy who wrote this was either drunk or didn't know what he or she was writing. Forget it. Now comes the big one. Slightly amount might look smaller, but how media was used to spread, kind of the kind of pitch that the US government wanted to make and spent ridiculous money. $2.1 million was given to BBC to value the diversity of Libyan society. And I'm sure a lot of money was given to BBC in India to do the same thing for the kind of lies they peddle against the Modi government here, day in and day out. 10 million worth of USAID funded meals went to an Al Qaeda linked terrorist group. Imagine $10 million worth of food was fed to the Al Qaeda guys who are attacking the US and NATO forces in Afghanistan. Ridiculous. 25 million was given to Deloitte for what? To promote green transportation in Georgia. Georgia as a country, mind you. What did it have to do it with the US government? 6 million was given for tourism in Egypt. Egypt gets enough tourists, guys. Relax. $6 million? This is the US taxpayers' money that was being blown up left, right, and center by the bureaucrats in USAID and other State Department organizations in the United States. 2.5 million was spent to promote inclusion in Vietnam. This LGBT stuff really is getting on my nerves, and I'm sure that what President Trump has done is a wonderful thing. It's just kind of stopped everything in the US and no more of, this kind of nonsense that is happening out there. Now comes the big one. Don't laugh at this or don't cry at this. That kind of money that is being spent, in Vietnam that we saw, and here comes the big one, 16.5 million for a separate inclusion program in Vietnam. They spent something before that, which I told you. But now the big one is 16.5 million. You spent 2.5 million earlier to promote inclusion, then a separate inclusion of which $16.5 million US government money, taxpayers' money was spent to create inclusion group in Vietnam. Say it outright. If you were trying to do a regime change, talk about it straight away. There's no problem. Like we did in Bangladesh. Like the CIA did that through the USAID in Bangladesh. 5 million was spent on to EcoHealth Alliance, given to EcoHealth Alliance, one of the key NGOs funding bat virus research at the Wuhan lab. Remember, that's where the COVID virus was leaked out to the world and it literally devastated the world. So the US government was funding EcoHealth Alliance, one of the key NGOs. Understand this, people whom I'm talking to right now, that the US government was funding, that is USAID was funding NGOs which were involved in the bat virus along with the Chinese in the Wuhan lab. Now imagine why the WHO is trying to cover up all this, which is why President Trump pulled out of WHO also. 20 million was given to a group related to a key player in the Russiagate impeachment hoax. Imagine, 20 million was given to this group, and the group was said to be a key player in the Russiagate impeachment hoax. We all know that. 1.1 million was given to an Armenian LGBT group. There seems to be somebody in USAID who's really sitting on this LGBT stuff and giving money, writing out checks left, right, and center. 1.2 million was given to help the African Methodist Episcopal Church Service and Development Agency in Washington to build a state-of-the-art 440-seat auditorium. Come on, guys. The church doesn't need your money to build an auditorium. Washington, D.C. has enough auditoriums. Why spend this kind of money, $1.2 million to build an auditorium, that too in Washington, D.C.? 1.3 million was given to Arab and Jewish photographers. For what? Taking photographs or teaching them how to take photographs? Ridiculous. 1.5 million was given to promote, again, LGBT advocacy of all the places in Jamaica. What are you trying to do? Change the world? Change all the genders? 1.5 million was given to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem. Basically, freak out against the communists in Cuba and do that, which has kind of been the US strategy for a long time. 1.5 million was given to the Cuban media. Say that you bribed them, boss. Like you bribed hundreds of journalists in India who've been bribed for the last kind of 20, 30 years by the USAID and other British organizations and other organizations funding George Soros and others. This is the same group that is doing all this. 2 million was done to promote equality through entrepreneurship, LGBT equality, by the way, in Latin America. LGBT equality through entrepreneurship? I don't understand the logic behind it. $500,000 was given to solve sectarian violence in Israel. And this funding was done just 10 days before the 7th of October attack on Israel by the terrorist group Hamas. 2.3 million for artisanal and small scale gold mining in Amazon. Just like I don't know why they gave money to, the terrorist attack, before the terrorist attack happened in Israel. The same question was, why do you want to encourage gold mining in Amazon of all the places? I thought this place is supposed to get kept pristine. Here comes one more LGBT, this time $3.9 million for LGBT causes in Western Balkans. There's more to come, don't just go away. 5.5 million for LGBT activism in Uganda, of all the places. There is more. LGBT, again, you get a lot of them. 6 million for advancing LGBT issues in priority countries across the world. Imagine, guys, you're supposed to be giving aid to solve people from their hunger, get them to work, do something. Instead of that, you're giving it to LGBT issues, priority countries. Which are these priority countries, by the way? The next one is kind of through the roof. It will take you literally through. 6.3 million was given for men to have sex with men in South Africa. Imagine, USAID gave $6.3 million for men to have sex with men in South Africa. Is it development? Come on. No guy with a right sense of the mind will even talk about such things. 8.3 million USAID was given for education, equity, and inclusion. Imagine, 6 million to transform digital spaces to reflect feminist democratic principles. Money was flowing like water till President Trump came in and stopped this nonsense and got Elon Musk and his team to go in and look at the stuff. And this is what we're getting. And I'm sure there's a lot more stuff that will come out over the next few days. This is something that gets my goat too. Same setup in India. In India too, something similar happens. Bureaucrats spend money left, right, and center for God knows what. But unfortunately, we don't have a government here which will have the guts to take on this. Even the Modi government will not dare do it, because they don't dare touch the bureaucrats, because the bureaucrats have established a system here like that. And something here, there are hundreds of government departments who God only knows what they do here in India. In fact, US climate change strategy outlined, in fact, a $150 billion whole of agency approach to building an equitable world, net zero greenhouse emissions. And we know what happened. President Trump threw all of that through the window and said he's getting out of the Paris Accord, he's not going to get it. USAID tax dollars subsidized mainstream news in America. In fact, this is now the biggest news that's coming out of the last 24 hours. Politico, of all the people, it was funded by 34.3 million for subscription by government offices and government organizations. And what does Politico write? All anti-Trump stuff, anti-right-wing stuff, total leftist. And their website seems to have disappeared over the last 24 hours. Their employees are supposed to not have been paid till now, but some of them say they will get paid over the weekend. Let us see. New York Times, another culprit, was paid $50 million. For what? For what? USAID spends $50 million to New York Times. It's supposed to go around the world and do something. Sitting in US, funding New York Times of all the things. For what? To write positive news about Biden, about Kamala Harris, about the Democrats, and write against Trump and others. Associated Press was given 19.5 million. If you ask me, all these people should be brought before a trial court and ask them what they did with the money. Reuters was given 59 million and another $220,000 from the Department of State last year. This is not a USAID, but from the Department of State, which is anyway the same bucket. BBC, which is funded by the British government, received 3.3 million. For what? Again, to write anti-Trump stories, anti-right-wing stories, and talk about LGBT, talk about refugees, welcome refugees into our country, kind of nonsense. For decades, USAID bureaucrats believed that they were accountable to no one. But now that era is over. President Trump is stopping this waste, fraud, and abuse. In fact, he wrote this all on X. For decades, USAID bureaucrats believed that they were accountable to none. And now, of course, that time is over. In fact, tech billionaire Elon Musk has got his team, and they also kind of dug out all this document, and he actually reacted to the entire thing, called it a crazy waste of people's tax money. Elon Musk doesn't need money. He's one of the richest men in the world. But remember, he's doing it for the US people. They are lucky, the US is lucky that they have somebody like Elon Musk doing it for them. I wish somebody is there in India who does this, but they will not be allowed to access the government. That is for sure. Even if Modi ji has the wherewithal and he goes all out, the bureaucrats will not allow anybody to touch the government accounts. At the maximum, CAG may do an audit. In fact, I remember this kind of wasteful expenditure here by the US consulate, who kind of cultivate certain media guys in Hyderabad, give them dinner, give them gifts. There was the British Deputy High Commissioner here before, who subsequently moved out, who used to do many seminar and workshop for interfaith and that kind of loony stuff for the leftist. And they were all attended by people who other day will go and chat saying death to America. But then they are called by these people. I mean, President Trump has to look at even what the embassies and consulates abroad do. They do something very similar to what USAID did. He has to send these people home, call them back to US, get real work done. Why bribe journalists of a certain order, certain leftist, and give them money, take them on tour to US? This is what they do. In fact, Elon Musk and team have exposed how billions of US taxpayer money has been siphoned off by USAID, by shady people and organizations, for cause which will make one laugh or cry. It depends on which side of you are sitting. Now, the department is supposed to be cut down from the 10,000 odd people to just 240 odd. And that is good news. That is really good news. Because that's all is needed to run USAID. A corrupt organization being cleaned up now, but one has to hold people who wrote out these checks accountable for what they did. And the US taxpayers have to demand that they return the money, the bribes which were paid, the siphoned off money which went into pockets of many politicians in US and across the world. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Hind.